Right. Well, Jordi Sullivan, the fight dietitian, obviously things are ramping up again for you. It's the time of the year, I guess. Now that we're through the holiday periods, it's back into work, and yeah, it seems like almost everyone in Australia and New Zealand has a fight lined up. Uh, I guess first of all, how are you doing, and were you expecting to be so busy so quickly?
Yeah, hey Chris. Yeah, doing all right. Pretty busy at the moment, like you said. It's the start of the season, I suppose, and it does seem like that. Everyone in Australia and New Zealand either has a fight, or they're looking for a fight, or they're expecting to have a fight. So yeah, at the moment we're pretty busy, just keeping everyone ready. But it's good. Like it's good to see, considering what happened last year, right, with complete abolishment of the tournaments and the competitions and the fight nights, and now everything's kind of going back 100%. So yeah, it's awesome. We're busy, but it's good. It's good to be busy.
Some pretty big fights coming up as well. I guess the biggest name coming up is Israel Adesanya, obviously fighting for the light heavyweight title. There's been a lot of talk about what he's doing in terms of his weight, how he's approaching the step up. Obviously, you work with him. Can you give us a little bit of insight into the preparation? I know Eugene has said that they're not bulking up per se. So yeah, can you just kind of shine some light on what's going on there?
Yeah, it's funny, hey, because it's probably like the most asked question I've been getting lately, and it seems everyone's talking about it except us. Everyone's talking about Israel's weight and is worried about Israel's weight except us. It's yeah, like Eugene said, you're not trying to bulk up and there's no need for it. Like we were talking about off air, when you talk about cutting weight, so to speak, and you're talking about, these weight category sports, the whole idea about cutting weight is to get this perceived size advantage, right? So you cut down weight and you're hoping by the time you put it back on, when you come up against that guy, you're going to be bigger and therefore you're going to be stronger. And that's going to elicit some type of advantage for you that'll help you win. And when you think about sports like grappling sports like jiu-jitsu, wrestling, judo, if anyone here has done jiu-jitsu and jumped in an absolute division or open weight division, you'll probably understand that the size advantage plays a big role when some dude 20, 30, 40, 50 kilos is laying on top of you. When you get to the striking sports, it kind of dissolves a little bit and the waters get a bit murkier and we're not so sure about how much of a role this size advantage plays. And then you go to mixed martial arts where you're doing grappling, you're doing striking, you're doing wrestling, you're doing all of these things. It's such a multifaceted sport, and we don't really know how to identify it and how to classify it. That size advantage gets even murkier. So when you've got an athlete like Israel, who's probably a one in a generation fighter, who has this technical skill set that is so far above everyone else, do you really need to worry about this perceived size advantage? And from a theoretical sense, I say no. And even from a practical, like look at Israel's track record. Look at his track record in MMA. He just fought Paulo Costa, who's the biggest guy probably in that division, probably the strongest guy. And look what Israel did to him. So, like Eugene said, there's really no need. There's no need to bulk up. There's no need to change the game plan that's been working for all of these fights for his whole combat career. Why change it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what we think.
Just on that, obviously you're not going to have to cut that much weight. Like, how do you manage that? Like, how differently is it going to be? Do you have to manage it at all, or is it just do what you normally do, and yeah, you don't really have to worry so much about the back end of the camp?
Yeah, so there won't be any weight cutting. Combat sports are interesting, right? Because they're probably the only subset of sports in the world where you deplete going into a competition. You think about all the other competitions, endurance events, long distance events, even team sports, rugby, soccer, whatever else. What's everyone do the week before an event? They fuel up and they carb load, or they fuel up going in and really load up the machine. It's interesting, and I'm very interested to see, okay, well, now we've got a top tier athlete who's, I would say, skill sets above everyone else in that organization, where everyone's cutting weight and depleting going into that fight night. And now we've got an athlete that has the room and the capacity to fuel up like a normal athlete should. So it's going to be very interesting. So yeah, he doesn't necessarily have to cut any weight. It's going to be quite the opposite. It's going to be fueling into that event. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how it goes.
It's going to be a first for a lot of people to see an athlete come in like that in the UFC in particular. Like, there's so much made of weight cutting and how important it is to make sure you're getting it right, make sure you're making the weight. Taking all that out of it, does that just take a load off of Israel and I guess yourself?
Yeah, I guess in a sense it does. But I think when you're talking about Israel too, I think everyone always pictures him and frames him as this skinny guy, right? And you've met Israel before. He's anything but. He's not a small dude. Everyone paints him like he's this skinny little guy that gets bullied. And I guess that narrative he sort of plays on a little bit. But if you meet the guy, he's massive. He's a beast. And like, shout out to Coach Suns, because whatever they've been doing the last few years, if you meet Israel, he is in phenomenal shape at the moment. Like, look at him. The dude's jacked. He's looking strong. And like if you shake his hand, you just feel it in his hand. You feel that grip strength. You know, oh man, like this guy is a powerful human being. Have you ever had him like embrace you or hug you? It's like, wow, like that. It's just a big human with a lot of force behind him. So everyone paints this picture like he's this skinny, weak dude. He's not. He's strong. He's big. He's reachy, and he's super, super powerful. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the whole world will be watching. I think we're all kind of keen to see how this plays out.
Like you say, Coach Soons obviously works with a lot of the boys. If anyone wants to see what they get up to, just follow the guy on Instagram. He's always posting stuff and giving little insights to how the boys train. And I talked to Kai Kara France today. Obviously, he's got a fight coming up on the same card as Israel. And I mean, that kid's looking in phenomenal shape as well. With so many of the guys that you work with having fights coming up or looking for fights, how do you manage your time between the athletes and I guess having time to do your own thing?
Yeah. So very carefully. But what we do is at TFD, I'm lucky enough now. It's not like the old days. I've got a team behind me now. So we've got 2 other dietitians. We've got a couple of interns that help us out. But my workload personally, I only work with about 30 to 40 athletes at one time. And so otherwise you just spread yourself too thin. There's only so much water you can put into all the cups. And I guess especially with the guys like Kai and the City Kickboxing guys, they're competing at such a high level. And if there is a 1% or a 2% or 3% that they can get from their nutrition, we need to make sure that we're getting that. So you really do have to be dialed in. You're talking to these guys every day, multiple times of the day throughout the camp. So you really do have to be switched on. We manage it by pretty much spreading the client load. So I kind of take these guys over here. Then we've got Ryan Hassel on the Gold Coast, who takes a client workload over here. He really focuses on a lot of our grappling athletes. And then we've got Jack Doherty, who focuses on our Muay Thai and MMA athletes and really focuses on the local Australian area. And then I'll take a certain chunk. And then we've got some interns around with us that can help with this workload over here. So that definitely makes it easier. It's not like the old days when we kind of used to fill our cups up a bit too much.
Yeah, only 30 or 40 athletes at one time, eh? That's nothing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it used to be crazy. I remember at one stage when I was early on, I didn't really understand that whole concept of time management. It's I had almost double that at one time. And you know what? It's great in all other senses of a business, but what it does, it takes it away from the athlete. And really, that's what we're here for. We're here to get a better performance out of that athlete. So really, I think the best results that we've gotten with these guys is since we've kind of restricted and got these other guys on board, and where we can all just put that much more attention and focus on our clients and go, okay, here's all these little details that we may have missed if we were having to look at the whole cake instead of just this one slice.
It's one of the guys you work with, obviously Dan Hooker, didn't go his way over the weekend. It was interesting for me because I know Dan. I've obviously covered him for a few years now. I know he doesn't cut a lot of weight. He's normally very diligent about how he approaches camp, about how he approaches his food. So I found it quite interesting that after the fight, so many people went online and said, oh, he looked shit on the scales. He must have had a bad weight cut or something. For you personally, seeing that kind of stuff, do you take that personally? And knowing the kind of guy Dan is, like, would he take that personally as well? And does that take away from Michael Chandler's performance? I know a lot of questions.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? No. It's interesting. I no. The first question is, yeah, Dan's pretty much my pinup boy. When I go around and do seminars and we talk about making weight healthily and making weight in the best way for your performance, Dan Hook is my pinup guy because, like you said, he's super diligent. He really embodies that 52-week athlete philosophy. You know, where he has different periods of time, but he always keeps his weight in a really good range, and he really fuels himself well. And it shows when he comes to that fight week. He does cut weight. Everyone cuts a bit of weight, but he's by no means doing an extreme on this end or an extreme on this end. As far as lightweight to go, he's pretty much bang on what I would say perfect. And I wouldn't read up too much into it. I think, like we were saying, the size advantage is a thing, but when it comes to mixed martial arts, how much of a role does it come into it? Like I always say to guys, you can go out and get a first round TKO or you can go for a 5-round war. The result at the end of the day is the same. I think to say that Dan had a bad weight cut and that's why, I think that's a bit disrespectful to the performance Michael Chandler put on. Like I think anyone, you know, like Eugene has spoken about before, at that level, it's a game of inches. These are the best guys. It's your timing is off by a split second. Boom, you're out. And they could fight any other night of the week and the complete opposite happens. To say that, you know, weight cutting played a role in that, I would be a little, dismissive of that. But you know, anything can happen on that. I think Michael Chandler was just the better guy on the night, right?
Yeah, it was a tough watch for us down here, but I mean, I've watched the fight a few times now, and Michael Chandler got a really good read of Dan and picked his shot perfectly.
Yeah, it was, and he set it up really well. But I thought Dan looked great. But like I said, at that level, anything can happen. You run that back a week later, Dan and Chandler, they go through the same process. Like I said, the complete opposite might have happened. So who knows?
Now, outside of the Fight Dietitian, I guess you've obviously launched your own supplement brand in Trainade. Just, I know that's taken a little bit of time to get off the ground. Without going into too many of the technical details that'll fly over mine and everyone else's head, what has had to go into getting this to a point where you're able to launch it now?
Oh man, yeah, it's been a long time in the making. It's been, I wouldn't say headache after headache because it is. I've been really excited about getting it up. I actually made it for your mates at City Kickboxing because I was getting so annoyed with them getting off the mats and me telling them to go hydrate and go drink their electrolytes and their fluid, yet they'd go to their trusty old vending machine and get their fizzy drinks. And everyone, when I say that, everyone goes, oh, the deep spring mango. And because it's actually that flavor that was in that vending machine is how we picked the flavor of our first product. But essentially, what it is, Trainade is, like you said, a supplement company. There's so many of them around, so many. I've never wanted to run a supplement company, but when you're working with guys at this level, there are probably a handful of supplements that we are always recommending and that do have some type of benefit, whether it's performance, lifestyle. And that's all we're going to do. We're just going to pick out those ones, going to make it ourselves, make sure they're all banned substance tested. That's always like a thing when you're going with supplements into guys who have to test with USADA. You're always in the back of your mind, oh, is this completely safe? I always just thought, well, if we want to be confident, we'll just make it ourselves. So the first one, hydration, is exactly that. It's a hydration supplement. It's in 30 seconds or less, it's an electrolyte solution that we've pretty much formulated to optimize the hydration process. And so what we do, it's part of a complete package where we get the guys and we give them a hydration strategy, which they all get with, say, their diet. And then this is something that can just help that. So promoting better hydration amongst the guys, and considering these guys are cutting water weight to make weight, hydration is pretty important for them.
Funny you mentioned the deep spring mango. I was in at City Kickboxing earlier today, and John Varkey straight to the machine today. So it's the second time in the last 2 weeks I've been in there, and straight after training, a few of them straight to the vending machine.
That's literally it, and that was why I made this thing. I remember when I pitched this to my business partner, my whole thing was like, man, I don't even care if we sell it publicly or we go commercial with it. I was like, I just need to get it to these guys so I don't want to say the brand in case, I don't know, I'll get myself in trouble if they ditch that vending machine drink for this one, then this is going to do what I want it to do. That's not doing what I want it to do. So hopefully we'll be replacing that in the vending machine soon.
And how have the athletes found it? I've seen a lot of them posting on the socials. Looks like mango is the only flavor out there at the moment. Were you trialing any others?
Yeah, we've got 3 in the pipeline. We released mango just because of summer. I'm not part of the marketing team, but the marketing team told me that was a great idea, and I just went along with it. But the feedback on it seems good. The thing is with these drinks, these oral rehydration solutions, is that they have a lot of sodium or salt in them. So a big problem that you get when you get to a certain concentration of salt is that it's salty. Like when you drink it, it tastes really salty, right? So that is why it took us so long to get this out, because yeah, we hired a lot of people, a lot of food scientists. I have a pretty good network of hydration experts and fluid balance experts that I could bounce ideas around. And the balancing act was, how do I get this formula that I know is really good and all these top researchers know is really good, but how do we put it into a product that tastes good? And merging those two together is what took quite a while. But yeah, we have a really good team of food scientists and food chemists that came up, and it's all completely natural. That was a big thing for me, is I didn't want any artificial weird stuff in there. I hate reading supplements where you read the back of it, and I've got 6 years of nutrition education. I don't even know what half of those things are. So I wanted to keep it all clean and natural and wanted it to taste good. But so far we're getting good feedback, but who knows, that might just be because no one wants to hurt my feelings. But so far so good.
When you talk about banned substance testing, like how long does that take, that whole process to get from start to finish?
Yeah, so when we manufacture it, what we have to do is every time we manufacture any of our products, we send a number of samples off to a independent testing lab, and then that independent testing lab runs those samples through the banned substance test, and then they send back our batch certificate. So every time we make a production of whatever product, we send it out to them, and then they come back and they assure us that there's no naughty stuff in there.
So nice and easy. And I guess just finally something a little bit fun, obviously for the fans of the sport, they like to know the inside word of what the fighters get up to. So I'll put you on the spot a little bit here. Just two questions. Who has the what you'd consider the best post weigh-in meal? And who's the niggliest to deal with for a weight cut? Throw the boys in the fire.
That's a good one. Someone's asked me this and I dodged it last time, but you know what? I'll give you an answer. Best post weigh-in meal. Volk always gets pho. He's very adamant about getting pho, and it always looks really good. Brad always gets some type of like Asian. I'm not super strict on the guys where it's like you got to eat super clean, because in that period, like, you got to get lots of carbs, and like keeping it really clean, it's hard to get lots of carbs. I'd say Volk probably has the best one, because I always look at that. It's probably the only one that I'm like, ooh, I really want to try that one. So Volk, you win for best post-fight meal. The niggliest during a weight cut. Geez, that's all of them can have their moments, can definitely have their moments. I think I'm going to throw Kai under, but I'm going to throw Kai because me and Kai have worked together the longest. So I think me and Kai, we're very much past the point where there's a lot of niceties. And if like we kind of get on each other's nerves, like we kind of do. Kai's no, he's great to cut weight with. He's just a professional, but he cuts a decent amount of weight. And I know he really enjoys his food. So going through it, it's like we do our best to cater for that as best as we can. But I don't know. It's like, I don't know, if you and me, we love playing Xbox. Someone takes our Xbox away from us for 8 weeks, you're going to be a little on edge. So sorry, Kai, I'm going to throw you on. But you know what? There's a few of the boys I could throw in that on their day. Everyone kind of has their day where you're just like, and especially during fight week, there's each of them are very unique, and you have to wear a different hat with them. And I've noticed that a couple of the boys, there's a certain day or certain time on fight week where I know kind of just give the food and then leave the room and don't say too much.